Cilappatikāram and Manimekale. Have you heard of this before? And it's a sorry fact that we as Indians do not know about the Tamil epics. And these are like glorious. I mean, the material, the content that you have in them is so beautiful and it's timeless. But we really, really need to actually go ask people about Cilappatikāram, and maybe people from my grandmother's generation, they would know it, they would at least know the story. But if you ask my students or people my generation or your generation, they unfortunately would draw a blank.
Even in Tamil Nadu.
So they might know about the existence of Cilappatikāram, but I've taught in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and in Kerala and in Andhra Pradesh. So very few students actually know about this. So like in a class of like 50 students, you would have like 10 who might know about Cilappatikāram, and then so Cilappatikāram is a post Sangam work, slightly later than the Sangam. And this was a work which was cited by Dravidian leaders during the Dravidian movement, during the Indian freedom struggle. It's a work, so if you look at the work as a historical source, by taking away all the fictional elements of it, and if I purely approach it as a historical source, so much of our culture, so much of what later became Dravidian identity, Tamil identity, is actually from Cilappatikāram, is actually from Manimekale.
What are the stories like overarching?
Okay, Cilappatikāram talks about Kannagi. And that's where I feel that, you have a lot of women-oriented literature being produced from the very early past, from the south of our country. So both in Manimekale and Cilappatikāram, you have the protagonist being women. The hero, it's a heroine-oriented story. I am, of course, this is a very anachronistic reference because you didn't have the idea of hero, heroine. You would have the central character. And the central character in Cilappatikāram is a woman. And there are references by historians that she could be the daughter of a Jaina merchant. But there's no direct reference, so we're not very, very sure. But there are clues that she could be the daughter of a very rich Jaina merchant. And she gets...
Jaina? You mean like Jain?
Jain.
Okay,
sorry. So we say Jaina and Buddha in the south. So Jain merchant. So she gets married to Kovalan, who's also from a merchant background. So, but he is a drunkard and he is wayward and he spends all their money, and then he falls in love with another woman who's a dancer. Her name is Madhavi. And you actually have references to the Natya Shastra, not direct references to Natya Shastra, but what later became part of Natya Shastra. So you have references to mudras, how a dancer is supposed to posture herself, how the stage has to be set when you have episodes in the story about Madhavi, because she's a dancer and she might also have been a Ganika or a courtesan. So Kovalan spends all his money on Madhavi, becomes bankrupt, and Kannagi knows this. But at the same time, she's also a very chaste wife. She doesn't question her husband. She patiently, very, very patiently waits for Kovalan to come back to her. And there's this episode where Madhavi sings a song, and the song is about a lover. Now, Kovalan thinks that, okay, this song is about someone else. Now, Madhavi is cheating on me. So Kovalan gets into a fight with Madhavi and they split ways, and he comes back to Kannagi. And Kannagi accepts him back, and both of them, so they travel all the way to the city called Pumpuhar. And then you have this beautiful descriptions of Pumpuhar where you have lanes and lanes and lanes set near the port. And there's a beautiful description of the ports where there are Yavana ships, and these are ships which are laden with all kinds of goods from all parts of the world as they knew the world. Now, their idea of world would be very different from our idea of the world. And then you have these lanes of perfume sellers and lanes of gold merchants and lanes of silver merchants and lanes of ironsmiths and lanes of porters. So you basically get an idea of who were the people who were living there, what kind of craft was there.
For you, which year is this roughly? Like,
so
which
this
period?
is somewhere around 500 CE, 5th to maybe 8th century, because there are different versions and recensions of the story.
What language was it in?
This was in Tamil, Chentamil, the ancient
Okay.
Tamil,
Yeah.
which is quite different from the Tamil that we use now. Some of the words are extremely different. We wouldn't be able to understand Chentamil if you read the original text, but transliterations are available, translations are available. You can actually Google Kannagi story and you will get it. So they go to Pumpuhar, and at Pumpuhar, all that they have left, because Kovalan has completely bankrupted the family. So all that they have left is a pair of anklets that Kannagi has. So, and it's gold anklets. So Kannagi takes off her anklets and gives to Kovalan and says, you go and sell this anklet so that we can set up shop and we can start anew. So Kovalan goes and tries to sell the anklet. Now what happens is, at the same time, the queen's anklets had gone missing. The queen of the Pandya queen, she lost her anklets, and there was a royal proclamation that somebody had stolen the queen's anklets, and whosoever catches the thief, there will be a reward. So the person to whom Kovalan sells the anklet, he thinks that Kovalan is the thief, because these anklets, because they also come from a wealthy background, and the anklet was so exquisite that the person who took it from Kovalan, he thought that, okay, this must surely be the queen's anklet, because it is so finely made. There's so much craftsmanship that has gone into it. So they catch hold of Kovalan and put him in the dungeon, and they're about to kill him. So Kannagi learns of this, and she goes to the court. And this is a very important point, where from a historian's point of view, women could actually go to the court. And even during medieval times, whether it is North Indian history or South Indian history, you do not actually see women going to the court and openly challenging the king's authority. Now, the only exception would be Draupadi, and that too because she was dragged into the court. But here you have a woman who's going to the court and who's challenging the king and saying, see, you have put my husband in prison unjustly. And the king says, no, he stole the queen's anklets. And Kannagi says, no, those are my anklets. And then there's a debate, and the king says, can you prove that those are your anklets? And she says, so inside the anklet, because it's a hollow anklet, like it's like the anklet that you wear when you dance, which has a certain jingle to it. So it would be hollow, and inside you would fill it with something so that it jingles. So Kannagi asks, what was inside your queen's anklet? And the king says, it was pearls. And Kannagi says, inside my anklet you had diamonds. And she asks for the anklets, and she takes the anklet and breaks it, and out tumbles diamonds. And the king realizes that, okay, he has made a mistake, and that this was indeed Kannagi's anklet. But by that time, the executioner had already killed Kovalan. So Kannagi gets furious and angry, and the different versions of this story. One version says that she curses the Pandyan king, and the entire city catches fire because of her curse. Now, another story says that she wrings off her breast and throws it. And the breast gets scattered across the city, and wherever pieces of her breast fell, those places started catching fire. And then the king, who understands that it was because of his wrongdoing that his subjects are now suffering, because there's fire everywhere. So he commits. And the rest of the story, again, you have different versions. So one version says that she came back to Chera country, and there she sacrificed herself, or she jumped. One version says she jumped into fire. Another version says that she became a goddess. Yet another version says that she became a Jain nun. And you have recorded evidence of a Patini cult. Patini meaning wife. So because she's a chaste wife, her power comes from the fact that she's an extremely moral, righteous woman who could actually destroy cities with a curse. So, and she in Kerala today and in Tamil Nadu, she is worshipped as a goddess. So we have what is known as the Pattini Amman cult.
What's her name now?
Pattini Amman. So she's also called Kannagi.
Okay.
Kannagi.
Kannagi Ma.
Just Kannagi. But Pattini Amma is like, Ammal is like Amma.
Got it. Okay.
So you have such stories of strong, powerful, fierce women. And I as a person would love more people to know this story.
It's so sad that in 31 years of my life, I'm hearing this for the first time. Right? Indian person's perspective.
Because it also changes your idea of what gender relations were. Right? That, women could actually go to the court, they could challenge the king, and the king responds by actually thinking of himself as an unrighteous king when a wrongdoing. He doesn't try to cover up. Once he realizes his mistake, he's like, okay, I have done something so wrong that I need to commit suicide so that my people don't suffer anymore. So you actually had welfare-oriented kings who thought of their subjects, who when they did something that they felt to be unrighteous, were ready to pay the price for it. So often when we think of kings, we only think of kings who were conquerors, who were ruthless and who would attack people. But then you also had the idea of the righteous king.
You mentioned that it's a Pandya king,
Huh.
right? And the Pandyas were an actual dynasty, etc., etc.
And the city is also an actual city, Puhar.
Do you think this is based on true events, or it's a story that's created in order to depict the world at the time?
I think as a historian, I can only think of it as a story which depicted life as it was at that point of time. But there might have been aspects of it which might have been very true, because these are also recurring motifs that we see in a lot of folklore, in a lot of other stories. And this is not just one text which is mentioned only in Cilappatikāram, but you also see evidence of it in other Sangam works and in later works as well. So there might have been a Kannagi. Maybe the story about how she wrung her breast off might be a little far-fetched, and storytellers kind of add hyperbole to things.
Where is Sangam literature, kept right now? Is it because, so you mentioned that it's in the form of poetry at the start. So even this story is in the form of poetry?
Yes.
Okay.
Long poems. The format is very in versified form.
If you enjoyed this clip from the Ranveer show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.